She sat across from me at our usual corner table, the one by the window where sunlight used to spill across her face in a way that made ordinary mornings feel like moments worth remembering. Today, though, there was no light in her eyes. She twirled a strand of her hair around her finger, something she always did when she was nervous, and that's how I knew before she even opened her mouth. Something was off. Her smile was forced, brittle like glass about to crack, and her eyes kept darting away from mine like they were searching for a version of me that wouldn't see through her. We'd been together for nearly 3 years. There had been arguments, miscommunications, the kind of late-night silences that stretched too long. But love had always been the anchor, or at least I thought it was. I never imagined what came next. Without a moment of hesitation, or even a decent lead-in, she looked at me and said, "I went on a date last night with someone else." Time paused. I blinked slowly, my brain scrambling to make sense of her words, hoping I'd misheard. But she kept talking, casually, like she was reading a recipe. She told me his name, how they met at work, how they laughed over wine and pasta. There was no shame in her voice, no hesitation, just a strange, deliberate calm. It wasn't a confession. It was a performance. She wanted to see what I would do. Maybe she expected me to plead, to unravel right there in front of her. Maybe she thought that if she made me jealous, I'd fight harder for her. Maybe this was her twisted way of measuring her worth by how far she could push me. But I didn't break. I just took a slow sip of my coffee, nodded once, and said, "Thanks for being honest. I hope he treats you better than I did." She wasn't ready for that. The words hit her like cold water. Her lips parted slightly, her confidence faltering for the first time. "Wait, that's it?" she asked, her voice cracking just enough to betray her surprise. "You're not going to yell? You're not even going to ask me why?" I leaned back in my chair, steady, calm, even though I could feel the sting in my chest. "I don't compete where I'm not wanted." I said, "If you felt the need to go somewhere else, then we were already over. I just didn't get the memo." And just like that, the air shifted, her posture collapsing on itself. The armor she'd walked in was starting to crumble. She tried to walk it back. Said she didn't mean for it to go that far, that she was confused, that she needed clarity. But her excuses felt empty, like trying to catch smoke. She wanted chaos. She wanted to see me fall apart, so she could feel powerful in her own indecision. But I wouldn't give her that. I stood up, finished the last of my drink, and said quietly, "You made your choice. I just finally saw it. I wish you well." I didn't wait for her response. I didn't need to. There was a flicker of regret in her eyes as I turned to leave. But I didn't stay to watch it bloom into anything deeper. I left her there, sitting in the ruins of a moment she thought she controlled. That evening, I went to her apartment to collect what little of mine was still there. I didn't take much. A few shirts, my watch, some books. I left behind the photos, the notes, the gifts, the tangible memories that meant something once. Let her be the one to sit with the silence. Let her be the one to feel the weight of absence when she opened the drawer and saw the space I used to occupy. Days passed, then weeks. She reached out at first. Casual texts that turned into long, emotional emails. She talked about mistakes, about how the date hadn't meant anything, about how she missed what we had. I never replied, not out of pettiness or spite, but because I had finally found peace in her silence. I wasn't angry. I was free. For the first time in years, I started focusing on myself. I picked up hobbies I had put aside, reconnected with friends I had let drift away to make space for her. My life felt lighter. Mutual friends said she wasn't doing great. The guy she'd risked everything for had ghosted her after a few weeks. She had expected him to fill a void. Instead, she ended up with nothing. Know him, know me. She thought she was being bold, but it was just cruelty dressed up as bravery. And by the time she realized the cost, I was already gone. Looking back now, I'm grateful I didn't scream or fall apart. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain composed and walk away with your dignity intact. My silence said everything she needed to hear. My calm was louder than any outburst. She told me about her date, thinking it would crush me, but instead it liberated me. In trying to break me, She revealed the truth, and I finally saw the value in letting go of someone who didn't know how to hold on.